Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. This is my weekly compendium of case reports between the 3rd to the 7th of June 2021, case files number 148 to 153. Case file number 148, written by Adam Holes Bebe, a memory as strong as iron that only he remembers. My friend of the past 5 years never existed. So this is going to sound crazy, but here goes. Around 5 years ago, I moved to a new school during my senior year of high school. I didn't necessarily have trouble making friends as I joined the football team and they were all very welcoming of me. I enrolled in this sort of advanced PE class that was for the athletes in the school. That's when I met a dude named Tyler, who was a grade younger than me and was also on the football team. We instantly got along and he became probably my best friend at the entire school. We would hang out outside of the school, but for some reason, he never wanted to come over to my house and never wanted me to come over to his house. I didn't think too much of it. Anyway, I graduated that year and we haven't really talked much since then. We would occasionally text about the NFL, but nothing more than that. I had a dream last night about the guy, and when I woke up, I figured I would text him and see how he was doing. The problem is, I couldn't find his contact in my phone. That's not uncommon, as I've had several new phones since I was in high school. I asked some of my old high school buddies if they had Tyler's number, and they acted like they had no idea who I was talking about. I even searched social media to see if I can contact him through that, but still, I couldn't find him. I was feeling like I was losing my mind. So I asked one of my old buddies if they found him in the yearbook from that year, and he said that he could not. I didn't bother to purchase a yearbook that year because that was my only year at the school. I even checked out Max Preps, a website that recorded high school football rosters and stats, but I didn't find him on there either. After a couple hours of syncing iCloud photo data to my phone, I ended up finding a picture of me and him, but nobody seems to recognize him. Here is a link to a picture of me and him back in 2016. I have no idea what is going on, and I was wondering if anybody has shared a similar experience. Edit. A couple of people have messaged me asking if I got his name confused. I guess it's possible, but I have a pretty solid memory of the guy's name because his first name was my middle name, and we used to call each other Tyler at the mall and stuff to confuse people. I absolutely remember his last name too. After requesting a records request from my high school, they told me they could not give out any personal data, but they did say nobody by that name ever attended the school. Also, after paying a professional website to go through the one picture I had of him, they could not find any matches anywhere. After talking to several people from my high school from social media, all but one person said they had no recollection of him. The one other person said they did remember me hanging out with one specific kid that he couldn't remember, but couldn't verify if it was Tyler. This whole experience has me pretty mind blown. I really do appreciate everyone's comments and messages. The most plausible explanation here is that he was possibly in witness protection. But wouldn't more people remember him, especially being on the football team at a rather large public high school? Speaking of which, I've combed through pictures and rosters from several websites of our team, and there's no trace of him anywhere. Sometimes there are things in life that are genuinely unexplainable. However, sometimes you just have to accept these conditions, which I'm slowly learning to do. Thank you all for helping me on this bizarre mental journey. Case notes, file number 148. So yeah, WWII is a logical possibility, and with the picture evidence, you know he existed. He's a real human being, and this isn't some quantum crossover event where you're in a new universe, because then the picture wouldn't exist in this timeline. The cloud sync wouldn't have produced it if Tyler didn't exist in that timeline. It is possible Tyler mostly kept to himself to keep himself protected as part of WWII, but if he was on the football team, I guess he broke that rule. And as you said, people would have remembered him. It's also possible that teachers were told to keep it under wraps. I'm not sure WWII would be able to control a private website's ability to scan for his image on the web though, so the fact they didn't turn up anything is another wrench in the theory. Case file number 149, written by Double Styler Z. A friend, the night, and an invisible presence. So I live in Poland, and this story happened to me in 2005. At that time, I was 18 years old. Since my dad died and my siblings left the family house a few years later, we lived only with my mom. But at that time, Halloween night, but in Poland we're not celebrating it. We celebrate All the Saints, that is next day. She went to my older sister, who lives in Warsaw, to see Pulaski Cemetery. So as a smart and responsible teenager, I asked my, at the time, best friend and neighbor, let's call him Andrew, to come over for some beer, etc. He was up for it, but had some stuff to do, so he was about to come later. I went back home and ate some dinner. It was like 7 or 8 p.m., so not that late, and went to get a shower. When I almost finished, I heard the front door closing, so I yelled at him to sit and wait for me to dry myself. And then it hit me. I locked the front door before I got into the shower, and he didn't respond when I yelled. At this point, I should mention that maybe not only my house, but the entire area around my house, and I mean like nearby villages, is full of spooky stories. I'm not some super believer in the paranormal, so I wasn't scared out easy at this time. But I was pretty sure I will encounter someone when I leave the bathroom. But guess what? No one there. My friend arrived like 15 or 20 minutes later, so I let him in, but I didn't mention to him about that weird event. So we sat in the kitchen with beer, and we laugh, etc. But I see that something's wrong with Andrew. When I asked what's wrong, he just said, "Can we go to your room? I feel like someone is staring at me." Anyway, that got me pretty creeped out for some stuff that happened before in my house, but we'll explain that at the end. So I double checked whether the front door was locked, and we went to my room. We watched some funny movies on YouTube, talked about girls and all that stuff. And something like maybe 11 p.m. Again, same sound like someone was closing the front doors. We look at each other because we heard the same thing, so we went to check it out. I guess beer plus tender courage is true. And yeah, the front door is still locked. Rest of the night was pretty nervous, but nothing else happened. I guess the worst part was that when we got outside, like 4 a.m., because Andrew was going to his home and I was forced to go back alone, but I stayed awake until the sunrise just to be sure. Personally, I got 2 theories about what was happening. First one, that house itself has some weird kind of presence. From what I know, it was bought but placed from my dad's hometown. The house is made of wooden logs and it was taken apart and put back here in one piece, but I don't know anything about the previous owners. I need to ask my mom more details. The reason I said I was scared when Andrew said that he feels like someone is watching him are stories of the first year when we moved into the house. Apparently, in that first year, my parents' room was barely usable because you get a weird feeling whenever you enter it. Just like when you enter a room full of people you don't like, and they stare at you with that get the hell out dude look. And Andrew sat at a chair opposite to my mom's room. My second theory is that all of the nearby area is more or less haunted since many people died here during World War II. So that's all for this story. If you have some questions, feel free to ask. Also, any ideas or explanations would be lovely. Case notes, file number 149. So indeed, the fact that this land was a place of battle during World War II leads me to believe there are restless spirits around the place. Nothing in the story screams out to me as malice, though. I think you'll be okay, but just be on guard. Not everyone who fights in a war is a good person. I'd have a go bag prepped, just in case you need to leave very suddenly. Case file number 150, written by Back Toril. Charlie, or was it Jacques? Their future in a premonition. Nearly 5 years ago now, I was dating a guy called Charlie. My mom felt terrible because she could never remember his name and always called him Jacques. We always poked fun at her as, well, we live in the UK. How do you remember Jacques but not Charlie? After we broke up, my mom continued to ask me how Jacques was, and particularly about his dog, which she believed to be a labradoodle. Charlie had a dog, but definitely not a labradoodle. My mom insisted I'd sent her photos of this dog that didn't exist, all the while referring to Jacques. Sometimes it would get on my nerves as she'd completely fabricate memories of stuff I'd done with Charlie. I thought she was winding me up. Fast forward to now, I'm currently in the beginning stages of dating a guy, surprise surprise, called Jacques. You can probably guess what kind of dog he has too. I haven't told him yet. I didn't want to freak him out or scare him off, but my mom and I have been in a constant state of what the f since I met him. We think that some of the memories she used to make up are things we'll do in the future. Case notes, file number 150. So my quick question is, did your mom by chance save those pictures? If they no longer exist, it's possible that your mom, not you, experienced a quantum crossover event. She saw Charlie's dog as he had it in that reality, and it was a Labradoodle there. It makes sense, really, since realities are usually similar, that the Charlie from another reality would have still had the inclination to own a dog. It was just a different dog there. Or if she didn't cross over entirely, she just was able to peer into that reality. Sometimes there's bleed over for unexplainable reasons. Case file number 151, written by doctors 12345. These people near our school were not normal. Context. I left school almost 5 years ago, which is really weird to think about, which is about 15 or 20 minutes by bus from where I currently live, so still local. Anyway, there are some woods on one side of the school, which also go a little bit behind the school as well. Behind those woods, there are a lot of large fields. There's also a house in the middle of those fields where an old man supposedly lives. I'm saying supposedly, as the house looks abandoned and I've never personally seen anyone walking in or out of it. Although the area is generally considered safe, there are quite a few strange stories and actual events that took place around the area. The stories tell of paranormal happenings going on, alleged criminal activity, anything from drug dealing to more serious stuff like kidnapping and murder, and just weird stuff in general. However, many of these stories are not published in the news or anything, so no one really knows how many of them are true and how many are just made up things that are just going around from mouth to mouth. One story that did make the news was that a person who was missing for about 2 months at the time was found tied in a tree in front of the school, on the school premises. The body was tied so tight that they had to cut the whole tree down to get rid of the body, so someone else must have been involved as well, although nothing has been made public afterwards. There are many other strange things that happened in that area, many of which have been confirmed by one of my mates who lives across the road from the school. Below, I'm going to tell my strangest and scariest story of what I've been through while living in this area, and probably the strangest thing I've ever personally encountered. Story. A few years ago, my friends and I were playing football at the school's football pitch, like we usually were. We were there for hours, which was nothing out of the ordinary. There were about 6 of us, and there was another, separate, group of about 7 or 8 people. The pitch was divided into 3 thirds. We were taking up a third each, which we didn't talk to or anything, as we didn't know them and they didn't know us. My friends and I were at the end, near the school, and the forest was at the complete opposite end, about 80 to 85 yards away or thereabout. At one point, one of my mates noticed 2 people wearing masks standing still at the other end, just staring at us. The masks looked similar to the Guy Fawkes mask, but they were somewhat different. They were on the other side of the fence, so we just ignored them, thinking it was someone from the other group playing some kind of joke before joining them. However, they were still just standing there about 15 minutes later. We asked the people from the other group if they knew them, or if they knew what was going on, and they said they noticed them as well, but they thought they were from our group, which they definitely weren't. They stood there for 5 more minutes or so before leaving, so everyone just sort of ignored what just happened and kept playing with their groups. We heard a scream about a half an hour later, which sounded like a female scream. The friend who lived across the road called his mom to make sure she's okay and to ask if she's seen anything. She said that she was alright, and that she heard the scream as well, and was about to call us to see if we were okay. She knew we were at the football pitch playing football, so we just started playing again. Shortly after we started playing again, we heard and saw a police car and an ambulance speeding on the road outside the school. The road was on the opposite side of the school, but the school had more than one building, and you could see the road between two of the buildings. About 10 minutes after the scream and the phone call, there were about 5 people standing where the 2 previous people stood, and they were just staring at us. A couple of them had masks, the others didn't. Over the next few minutes, there were more and more people joining them, coming from different areas of the woods and or from the fields. Again, some of them had masks, some didn't. I think that in total, there were somewhere around 30 people just standing there staring at us. We obviously got scared, and it was clear that the other group playing football was scared too. We eventually all stopped playing, and we were just looking at them, and they were looking at us. The other group joined us so that we could all be as far away as possible from this mysterious group. We had no idea what to do. We didn't know whether we should talk to them or not, if we made the right choice by acknowledging them. We didn't know if there would be more of them coming or if they would come onto the pitch. I forgot to mention, we weren't really supposed to be there, as we were in the 6-week summer holiday, so the school was closed and everything was locked up. However, someone managed to unlock one door that was facing the forest door, which was used if someone kicked a ball over the fence during PE. This meant that we were trapped. We couldn't get out without going through them, and we had nowhere to go if they decided to walk towards us. It felt like we all just stood there, looking at them, and they were looking at us, for an eternity, but it was probably only a couple of minutes. We then all huddled up and decided what we should do, and we came to the conclusion that we should call the police. Even if we would have been told off for trespassing or whatever, our safety was way more important. However, the problem is, we were all too scared to call 999. This is the emergency number in the UK. As it turned out, none of us had ever done it before. One of my friends volunteered to do it, so he got his phone out and had 999 dialed up. He just needed to actually call the number. As he was about to do so, we heard the ambulance and the police cars driving the other way, and the people started walking away pretty much straight after the cars passed the school. We decided to wait a little more to make sure they wouldn't be waiting for us somewhere in the forest, which we had to walk through for a couple of minutes to get to the main road. Someone from the other group actually called his older brother and his mates to come and check. We waited for maybe an hour or more, after which we decided to get out of there to find the guy's brother. I don't know any of their names, and quite a few of his friends waiting for us. They laughed at us at first, but then we told them what happened and they stopped laughing at us. Now, it could easily have been someone just messing with us, but I highly doubt it with that many people taking part. My mates and I still don't know why they were staring at us and or what their intentions were, which probably adds to the eeriness. But yeah, this is the strangest and scariest thing I've ever been through in this area, where something weird was definitely going on. I'm saying was because I haven't been there in about 2 or 3 years, but I wouldn't be surprised if strange stuff is still happening. Case notes, file number 151. While this is spooky indeed, the fact there was a missing person who later was found tied up into a tree screams of some sort of ritualistic cult in the area. Be careful out there. My gut tells me had you been alone or in a smaller group, it wouldn't have ended so quietly. The author responded to my comment saying, although I do agree that the whole thing would have ended up not so quietly if the group was smaller, I'm not entirely sure about the cult. This is simply because the things that happen don't happen at regular times, if that makes sense. Sometimes you might have 2 or 3 incidents within a couple of weeks, sometimes it'd be months between each event. As far as I'm aware, not much has happened in the past couple of years, but then again, I haven't really kept in touch with the old classmates that live there. I'm 99% sure he still lives there, and although I live close to the school, I don't live close enough in order for me to hear everything that happens there. So things might have recently happened, which I wouldn't be surprised about, but I just didn't hear about them. But then again, I know next to nothing about cults, so I might be wrong. Edit. I just wanted to add something. I don't think the people we've encountered that day at the football pitch have anything to do with the missing person incident. I think they were all about 18 or 20 years old at the pitch incident, and the missing person incident happened about a year prior and he was in his 40s, if I remember correctly. Also, it seems like whenever there are people seen doing strange stuff, it's different people every time. Case file number 152. written by Penguin Arcake. A day with her sister filled with shopping and ice cream, but did it happen? It's nearly 1 a.m. and I've been scrolling through these posts for a while now, and some of them are truly captivating, and it triggered an experience that I haven't thought about in over a year. I thought I'd share, as I think it fits the brief. This happened when I, male 23, and my sister, female 34, were 13 and 23 respectively. Saturday morning, I woke up at about 10 a.m.-ish. My mom cooked me some breakfast, Scotch pancakes, and we watched an episode of Lost together, while my brother stayed upstairs playing on his PS3, probably FIFA. Around 11:30 a.m., my sister called me and asked me if I wanted to meet her at a local shopping center to buy some clothes, and just generally have a walk around and have something to eat. I wasn't doing anything and my friends weren't playing out, so I decided to meet her. She took a taxi there and I walked there as it's pretty close to me, or was at the time. We had a generally good time. I didn't end up buying any clothes, my sister did though. We had a meal at a cafe about 1 p.m. and got an ice cream each afterwards, where you buy a cone and go make it yourself from the machine. Although I broke the machine pin on the lever and got a bit upset because I thought I was going to be made to pay for this, but the manager came over and said it's happened a few times, no biggie. We went to Mr. Sims, which is an old-fashioned sweet shop, and bought some sweets, weighed them up and paid for them. Going home, my sister ordered a taxi, but this time I got in. The taxi dropped me off at home, and she stayed in and went home. She was living with her friend at the time. So it was a generally good day. I played some FIFA with my brother when I got home, ended up having a bit of an argument with him, then made up. Had some supper in the evening and watched Saturday Night Takeaway, and your generic Saturday TV. All in all, a pretty normal and uneventful day. Except, this day didn't happen. At least not to anyone but me and my sister. I mentioned me breaking the ice cream machine to my mom. She thought I was joking. I explained that at the cafe today. When we had food, I broke the pin on the lever. I'll never forget the way she looked at me. She looked worried, but slightly questioning, waiting for me to say I'm joking. She said I left the house once today, and it was to go to the chip shop to bring back egg fried rice and curry for me, my brother, and my mom. And it took about 15 minutes. At no point did I leave for hours, and when I did leave, it was about 2 p.m. I remember calling my sister, panicking at this point and needing to prove that I did actually go and meet her. She answered, slightly sleepy by this point, as it was about 11 p.m. before this conversation occurred, and asked her what we did today, on loudspeaker. She went through the exact same story I just told my mom, including the ice cream machine, including what she bought, and including what sweets I got from Mr. Sims. At this point, I ran up to my mom and brought up the remaining sweets down to prove that I bought these today and went to the shopping center. My mom at this point had tears in her eyes, hoping I guessed that this was some prank me and my sister had conjured up. Me and my sister agreed to talk about it tomorrow, but texted me afterwards asking if mom's alright. I said yeah, and if she's not, neither is my brother because he's promising me that at the time I say I was out, he was playing FIFA with me in his room. Tomorrow comes and my sister calls me in a panic, claiming that her boss sent her home from work because she got called in yesterday instead. She said that her boss said he called her yesterday morning and asked to cover someone's shift, and she can have Sunday off, essentially just swapping a shift, which she agreed to. She said she didn't push him too much because she didn't want him to think she was mental and lose her job. To this day, our mom, brother, and even my sister's now ex roommate are wholeheartedly convinced that the day me and my sister spent together didn't happen. She no longer has contact with her old boss, but he paid her for the Saturday despite not working Sunday, and me and my sister can recall tiny details to each other about the day we had. Over the years, this has generally drifted into the background, but sometimes it gets brought up now and again. It has become something that's almost taboo to talk about in our family because of the issues it caused around the time. This turned out to be a lot longer than I expected, but never had the opportunity to share this in a place where it actually seems to fit. Edit. I did reply to one commenter saying that this hasn't happened since, but the mention of timelines got me thinking into one specific instance that also happened, in very similar circumstances, again with my sister. It was so short and seemingly insignificant in comparison to this one that I don't think about it often, but it would definitely fit into the glitch in the Matrix genre, so I might end up posting that one for you guys if anyone's interested. I have to speak to my sister first to get an updated account, though I don't want to end up misrepresenting her account because it heavily relies on that too. It's almost as if, for a few seconds, we both had a glimpse into the past. Nothing major, no major events. Just a small glimpse into a world before the one we live in. It was chilling. Maybe not so much as this one, but probably relevant to the sub. Case notes, file number 152. So I've been reading glitch and paranormal stories for years now, but I'm baffled by this account. At first glance, if this happened only to you, I'd just chalk this up to a crossover event to another universe. Happens quite frequently if you die in the originating universe, as we all know now as quantum immortality. Of course, the physical you doesn't move, the body, but the spirit does, the consciousness. But could that be the explanation here, given your sister clearly would have come from the same universe at the same time? You both crossed over? I've never heard of a tandem synchronicity when moving between universes. So basically, I'm either at a complete loss, or this simple, for the glitch initiated, explanation is mind-blowing in that it shows that more than one person can join the other in this type of involuntary travel. We should all keep an eye out for any other chroniclings of this duo-type crossing, because if more than one person can cross over at the same time, then maybe entire groups can. Case file number 153, written by Tiny Whale Shark 69. A man down on his luck asking for help. But wait, where did he go? So I stumbled across this sub just a couple weeks ago, and I think that this may qualify after reading many of these posts. It's something I've never forgotten about since it happened, even though it was many years ago. To this day, I wonder if I was tested and failed. This happened quite a while ago, circa 2002. I was in the military at the time, stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. In those days, we all used to mob to a bar called Greenie's that was near the beach that was right outside the back gate of the base. My memory is a little cloudy concerning the geographical location of where everything was because it was so long ago, but I remember there being a gas station right near the bar where we would frequently stop to grab snacks and drinks and beer, etc. One night as we were leaving the bar, we decided to stop and grab some junk food before heading back to a buddy's house. I had a pocket full of money because we'd just gotten paid. We pulled into that same gas station, and as I was getting out, I saw a rough-looking homeless man standing right by the door to the gas station. As I was walking in, he said, "Excuse me, young man, I'm hungry, could you please spare $1?" I walked past him and replied, "I don't have any money, man," and I walked in the store. I specifically remember this because I knew that I had a pocket full of cash. As soon as I entered the store, I had this overpowering urge to turn back around and give the guy what he asked for. I thought this odd because I never ever give panhandlers money. I turned around to walk back out of the store and give the homeless guy money, and he was gone. Maybe 3 or 5 seconds had elapsed from the time I walked past him to the time I turned around. The front of the store was lit up and wide open, and the parking lot was open and lit up with nowhere for anyone to possibly hide in that short of a time. The left of the store as you were walking out was connected to another building, so you couldn't even walk that way, and to the right was more of that same open parking lot. No dumpster, nothing. Dude had literally vanished. I walked back in with this horrible feeling that I had somehow just fucked up. It was hard to explain how weirded out I already was. And then to make matters worse, I told my buddy, "Man, I should have given that old boy $1." He had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. He told me there was nobody outside the store when we walked in, and just kind of dismissed what I was saying. That was almost 20 years ago, and I've never forgotten it to this day if I see a panhandler that looks like they really are struggling. I throw them whatever I have in my pockets that's loose. To this day, I wonder if an angel asked me for a favor, and I totally turned them down. And I'm not even a religious person. Case notes, file number 153. This reminds me of the Lady of the Lake test, where a person's character is weighed through an act of charity to the homeless. Of course, failing this test doesn't impart any penalties. I don't think you're cursed or anything of that nature. If it was an angel, I think directly passing this test would bestow upon the person a greater appreciation of life and its treasures, in the form of appreciating human connections. But on that line, I think in a way you did pass, because you corrected your thinking and almost immediately wanted to turn back to help the man. Perhaps then it wasn't a test at all, but an opportunity, a lesson. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and leave any thoughts you might have down below. I always like knowing what you guys think too.